Hi, I'm Bill Faeth, founder of Build Short-Term Rental Wealth, inventor of super properties, and one of the foremost experts in building long-term wealth the slow way through real estate. If you're looking to leave your W-2, you could be an attorney, a doctor, physician, whatever, and build passive income to support you, support your family, and build long-term wealth, then you're in the right spot. Look, my name is Bill Faeth. As I said previously, I'm the founder of Build Short-Term Rental Wealth. I've also done 29 additional startups, all bootstrapped, and I built a couple of $30 million companies, one to over 50 million. And what I found out is I really don't want to work that hard, to be honest with you. I want to work smarter, I want to work less, and I wanted to stop trading time for money. That's why I got out of the long-term rental investment game, got out of the multifamily, owning condos, trying to play the appreciation game. And in 2015, I found short-term rentals. And that's where I live today. Sure, I've got some boutique motels. I've got a capital group to where we invest into larger multifamily properties. But I've cut my teeth and built an $18.8 million portfolio that me and my wife own. We also self-manage, and they're spread out across 6 states from Montana all the way to North Carolina. That self-management is where we are able to take our properties to the next level and turn them into super properties, so we don't have to spend 20 to 25% with a property manager. This is one of the super key components of doing self-managed short-term rentals. Because look, if you're in the LTR game and you go spend $500,000 and buy a quadplex and you're charging $1,800 a month, and you're eking out about a $300 to $500 a month profit, it's not worth your time, to be honest with you. Now, I want to take a step back and I want you to understand something. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is not something that is passive, even though the US government and the IRS classify short-term rental income as passive income, and that comes with some monstrous tax benefits, which we'll talk about later, but this is an active investment. But there are ways that you can automate this, which becomes really important. And those are things that I'm going to talk about on this channel. I'm going to take you through every single step of how to identify markets, how to build super properties, how design element, goes into maximizing your return on investment, why short-term rentals are still the number one asset class to invest into. It's not boutique hotels. It's not long-term rentals. It's definitely not condos. But the single-family home in the right market, following the 3 fundamentals of proximity, views, and location. Proximity, views, and location are how you can do 5 to 7x the ROI in short-term rentals as you can in long-term rentals. That's why I moved my portfolio, right? But one of the things that becomes really, really important is if you follow me on this channel, you hit the subscribe button, first of all. But most importantly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through every single step. I will be posting videos, long format videos like this, probably in the 10-minute to 30-minute range, at least twice a week. And then I'm going to follow up with a ton of shorts as well. Look, we all have, attention deficit a little bit, and we want to consume our content as quickly as possible. So I'm going to have both forms of content ready for you. Now, you may be sitting here wondering, who is this for? Why should I be interested in this? And if you made it this far, then obviously you have an interest of building long-term wealth. So not only have I accumulated $18.8 million in short-term rental properties, but I'm also generating over $1 million a year in cash flow. That's net income. That's only on 12 properties. Here's the deal. This is where I am different. And this is how I teach my students. This is how I'm going to teach you. My goal, make $1 million with the least amount of properties. So I actually implore my good friend Mike Michalowicz, author of Profit First, and most importantly for this, the Pumpkin Plan. I use the Pumpkin Plan to grow super properties, and I actually tap into equity on existing properties, sell that, and then reposition. And sometimes I've built up so much equity through value add, paying down principal, and appreciation that I can typically take the equity out of one property and turn it into 2. So imagine if you have a property that's generating $40,000 a year in cash flow, and over forced appreciation, paying down principal and appreciation, a couple of years later, you're actually able to sell it, split the equity, and invest it into 2 properties that are cash flowing $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year in revenue. Most of my properties today are now doing over $200,000 to $250,000 a year in revenue and operating at a 40 to 45% net margin. The cool thing about it is I started with one investment. One investment only, $126,000. And I built what's called the 550-250 program. This is where 5 years, 5 properties generating $50,000 a year generate $250,000 in income off of the first investment only. This can be done out of cash flow, but there's some secret sauce in the middle about repositioning and tapping into the equity, like I just explained, that allows you to accelerate this proposition to be able to get to $250,000 a year in net income, not gross. I want to make that abundantly clear. Net income without having to make a second investment. You may be sitting here thinking, I must have to be an absolute expert in doing all of these types of things. Well, you're going to learn that on this channel. There's no question. So this is for beginners. You don't have to have 50 properties. Look, I only own 12, but yet I make as much as people to own 50, 60, or 70 properties because they're investing in the small properties like condos, 1 or 2 bedrooms, and then they never level up. That's the important part, right? So there's a lot of challenges that we face as we're trying to grow a real estate portfolio. And one of them is cash, right? So that's probably the biggest problem for most people that I see when they try to break into this industry is going to be cash. And even if they do have cash, they don't know how to manage your debt to income, which we need to buy properties. You don't know how to become bankable. And when you don't know how to become bankable and you've maxed out your debt to income, then you're not going to be able to buy properties except for on like one loan type, which is a DSCR, which has some strings attached to it and typically has the highest interest rate. So if you go through the channel, you're going to see that I cover these things for you in depth. That's why I'm doing these long format videos. So I can not only just tell you about these things, but actually teach you how to execute them. One of the biggest problems for people is managing your DTI, right? I mean, I'm just going to give you a really quick tip here. So if you own your primary residence with you and your wife, or you and your husband, and you're married, you don't want to have your name, both of your names on that loan. I'm not saying to go sell the house, buy a new one, but as you move forward, when you buy a car, somebody needs to be the debt acquirer and the other person needs to be the real estate investor. And my relationship with my wife, she owns her Tesla. She owns my Suburban in Whitefish, Montana that we use because we go there so much. She owns my Ford Raptor. She owns our $100,000 pontoon boat. And then she's on this mortgage. And the reason she's on this primary mortgage, and I am as well, is because we didn't know any better beforehand. We didn't know how to divide our debt. Now she owns the vehicles, the boats, all the toys, and we typically put 50% down and finance the rest. But that shows on her DTI, on her credit report. I only own the investment real estate because I am the buyer. And what that's done, because I started with commercial loans for our first 8 properties that they don't report to the credit bureaus. So I literally show virtually no debt, 0 debt. Occasionally I have some credit card debt, but I also manage my credit cards and pay them off 2 or 3 times per week. That allows me to protect my DTI. So when interest rates went up, I was able to leverage second home loans. Where most people go in and they start investing and they start taking advantage of second home loans, 10% down, and then they max out their DTI. And look, here's what I want you to understand. You could be a high income earner at $50,000 or $50,000 a month or $600,000 a year, but you only get 40% of that. So if you're doing literally $50,000 a month, that means at 40%, you're going to get, let's just say roughly 20 grand. Look, I'm a college dropout from UCLA, dropped out to play professional golf. I'm not the smartest when it comes to math. I kind of need to grab my calculator once in a while. So, but we're just going to call it $20,000 a month. If you and your wife split a $4,000, have a $4,000 mortgage, well, now you're down to $16,000 of investable income before you max out at the 40%. So if you wanted to add 10 properties or 8 properties or even 5, you're only going to be able to have 4 at roughly $4,000 a month in each. And right now, today, as of this recording, that's about a $650,000 property that you're going to purchase. We're not even talking $1 million properties. So managing our debt becomes really important. I'm going to teach you that inside of these videos. It's something that's super important. I want to share with you. I mean, when I started with $126,000. My wife saved up. We saved up. We were making about $300,000-$400,000 a year. So $126,000 was a lot of money to us at that point. And she wanted a beach house. So we put that down on the beach house and then we saved. We didn't have to live on that. I was making, about $300,000 a year. So we took the cash flow out of that first investment, that $126,000, into a tier 2 beachfront property. And after 2 years, we had saved enough to where we were ready to buy our second property. And I'm going to tell you right now, the second property and the third property are the most challenging. So especially if you're not independently wealthy. I mean, if you're not a trust fund baby or, a hedge fund manager, we need to be very strategic in how we manage our debt, how we manage our DTI, and how we manage our cash flow with property number one, so we can get to that $250,000 as quickly as we can. Super, super important. So we're going to talk about investing. We're going to talk about how to select the right market, how you can self-manage remotely anywhere in the country. So if you can open up the entire country and get out of the comfort zone where most people make a mistake of investing close to home and invest anywhere in the country like I do, Arizona, Montana, Alabama, North Carolina, Tennessee, Florida, now you can get access to the best markets. I'm going to teach you the secret of finding the best markets to invest into. Don't follow the herd. You don't want to go into the Smokies right now. You don't want to go into 38 or Orlando, Palm Springs, Coachella, all the places that you're going to see on social media. And I get we're on YouTube here, but all the places you're going to see on social media, you want to steer away from that. I have made millions by going into the secondary and the tertiary markets. Markets that people have never heard of and the masses are not investing in. Hence, when I went into Banner Elk, nobody was going into Banner Elk, but I went into Banner Elk, North Carolina, as opposed to going to the Smokies because I didn't want to have to default to buy a property and then put a $50,000 game room in or drop a $75,000 mod pool. So I did my research and I saw the hosting was down at a different level. People weren't making those mega post-close investments. There was 2 huge traffic drivers in Sugar Mountain and Beach Mountain. And I bought my first property right in between both of them. And hence that property does between $255,000 to $285,000 every year for the 2.5 years that I've owned it. And that's in gross revenue because I bought in the right location. I didn't buy in Linville. I didn't buy in Boone. I didn't buy in the surrounding areas. And I didn't buy in the competitive market. When my wife wanted a beach house, instead of investing into Seaside or the 30A or Destin area, which was already saturated and had great hosts, I was able to go to Gulf Shores, Alabama, get in for 50 to 75% less, literally bought a $700,000 property. Actually, it was $629 property that was tier 2, 4 bedrooms, super nice. And at the time, in 2015, that probably would have cost me about $1.5 million invested, maybe $1 million. But also the thing is even today you can invest and get in for 40, 50% less in Gulf Shores and generate 40 to 50% more income. So identifying those markets that you can invest into is critical for your success, especially if you're just starting out. I'm going to share those with you as well. One of the things that's super important is just I'm going to give you a sneak peek into what's coming after this video. And it's going to be what's happening in 2024. Is 2024 a time to invest into short-term rentals? So that I'm going to drop that by the time you've probably even seen this. So scroll over to the channel, take a look. And please make sure that you subscribe. Even if you found any value in this, you can always unsubscribe. But I've got a lot of stuff that's going to be coming. I'm a huge giver. I believe in giving more than you expect to receive. So I'm going to do that here within the channel. One of the things that's super important is I pride myself on being one of the most accessible coaches in this industry. I don't care if you buy anything from me. You don't have to. I'll chat with you right here on YouTube. So leave a comment down below. Tell me what you're struggling with. I'm happy to help you. And I want to make sure that you have the opportunity and you have all the tools that you need to be able to be successful. So drop a comment down below. Make sure you subscribe. And thank you so much for watching this introductory video. It's kind of hard for me to talk about myself because I'd rather be talking about you and how I can help you obtain the long-term wealth that you've been dreaming of.